Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to the Pull-Up Show. I'm your host, Mr. BJ Matthews, a.k.a. B. Just before we get started, follow us on the YouTube page, the Pull-Up Basketball Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, all of our YouTube videos. Hit that like button. Y'all come in here as well. Let's get it popping. All right, so we back with another video for y'all again, man. We're going to talk about the Houston Rockets, the third seed in the Western Conference. They're 9-4 currently right now. And they're playing some great basketball. So this is a team that we need to talk about as well. As I've talked to y'all before in the past, we talk about teams that are actually, doing well and doing good. And also we do talk about teams in general who need to be talked about, good and bad. As I try to tell y'all, I talk about just not the Clippers. I talk about the entire NBA. I watch the entire NBA. But let me just be honest with y'all. Because of my ties with the Clippers, of course, I'm going to watch every Clipper game. So when I talk about any team, it's because I've been watching them, from either afar. I've been watching them up close as of recency. You got to be careful who you guys talk about as far as, certain things, because you might put your foot in your mouth and miss a few points. So when I bring these videos to y'all, I try to make sure that I give y'all as much information and, analytical facts and some entertainment as well, as much as possible, right? Let me fix my camera. Car combos with B Jizzle. All right. So Houston, for y'all don't know it, there's a team that I actually was looking at since last season. All right. Little quick backdrop. Me and one of my co-workers with the Clippers made a little friendly wager. And I said Houston was going to be in the play-in last year. Now, of course, they barely made it. They missed it outside. They were an 11th seed. But I made that friendly bet to, put my confidence like this team is moving in the right direction, right? They finished off 41-41 last year at 500, right? The resurgence of Jaylen Green in the second part of the season was a big part of that, who's currently still on the squad. But last year, they did something interesting. They brought in Ime Udoka, who was the former coach of the Boston Celtics. Got them to the championship for the first time, the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown era. And then, of course, last year, the Celtics capitalized on the championship with Joe Mazzulla. But I knew Ime Udoka was a great coach after that one run against the Boston Celtics. Ime Udoka is a former basketball player, was somewhat of an enforcer. Tough-nosed player, like that's the type of style Ime Udoka used to, play as. And that's the style that he coaches. Look no far as much as the first round against the Brooklyn Nets in 2022, where Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving got swept and Kevin Durant looked like a shell of himself. It was probably the worst performance I've ever seen Kevin Durant have as a star. So when you factor that in and say, well, Ime Udoka was, the coach of that Boston Celtics defense and that team, I can only see and only hope that this will be transferred to the Houston Rockets, and that's exactly what it is. The Rockets right now are the third seed in the Western Conference after being literally the 11th seed last year. Now, before Ime Udoka came to the team, the Rockets had records of 22-60, 20-62, and 17-55. 3 years in a row, bottom of the Western Conference. So you talk about now them being playing to now the third seed in the Western Conference. It's a big jump. And in the NBA and just in sports in general, it takes time to build a team to be, from a bottom of a conference to the top. OKC is a prime example. For 3 straight years, they were at the bottom of the Western Conference. Until now, they're the first seed in the Western Conference. They made it to the playoffs, made it to the second round. So it takes time for a team that's rebuilding to get back to prominence. So, of course, before them, being just pretty much the bottom, they had James Harden there, and they were actually a playoff caliber team every year. So James Harden leaves, and Chris Paul leaves, Russell Westbrook leaves, all their star power leaves. They have to rebuild and get a new coach, right? They had Paul Silas before Ime Udoka, and obviously he could not get that team on track. So they brought in this Ime Udoka coach, and he's pretty much turned the team around, right? Not only that, they cleaned house. When he got there, he got some, players. He said, I need some players. If I'm going to come here, I'm going to need guys like Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, right? You got Alfred Sengun still there. You got Jaylen Green still there. That's good talent. You got rid of KPJ, who obviously was the, cancer, not the cancer, but he was kind of the hothead of the team. You know, you already had a hot-headed, you know, Jaylen Green, a guy who was kind of a, let me fix this for y'all here. 1 second, y'all. Let me fix this. I'm actually going to pull over. Let me fix this real quick. All right. So, you got rid of Kevin Porter Jr., and now you have Jaylen Green right there. Jaylen Green's a great talent, right? So, you don't need to have two knuckleheads on the same team. Okay, I'll keep one of them. I don't need two. He said to himself, okay, well, I need to set the standard for this organization before I get here. Number one, youth is not going to be an excuse for why we not win. I come from a winning culture in Boston. If you think I'm going to come to Houston and come in saying, oh, we just bad, we're not going to be good next year, you have something, you know, else coming to you. You know, Ime Udoka is a winner. Ime Udoka wants to win. So he comes into his first day on the press conference and said, youth is not going to be excused this year. It's not going to be excused to win. We're going to build a winning culture here. We're going to build a culture of no nonsense. So, obviously, like I've been telling y'all before in the past, what your coach is what your team is. If your coach is no nonsense, that means what? Your team is no nonsense. If your coach is by the book, that means your team is going to be by the book. If your coach is a smart coach, that means your team's going to be generally a smart team. Smart and dumb don't mix, right? So if you have a smart coach, you're not going to really have a dumb team. Even if the talent is not where it needs to be at, your team is a reflection of your coach. I'm going to keep saying it over and over. So you look at a team like Houston. I watched a few times this year against the Spurs. I watched them against Dallas. And I watched them against us. So that's 4 straight games I've watched this team this year. I watched them a lot last year. I saw them from afar. I said I'm going to, you know, put my money up to say that they're going to be in the play. And, of course, it didn't happen, but they were right there. Now you look at them, they're a 3rd seed. Why is that? Because Ime Udoka has built a culture in Houston where he's implemented on these players. All right, let's start with Fred VanVleet, the point guard, the orchestrator, the one-time championship with the Toronto Raptors. Ime Udoka and Fred VanVleet are the same person, right? Fred VanVleet, very tough-nosed point guard, very, you know what I'm saying, doesn't back down from nobody. He's not the most flashiest guy. Same thing with Ime Udoka, wasn't the most flashiest player. But he tends to find ways to make his abilities be, you know, recognized, right? So you got to think, okay, well, that's an extension of the coach, your point guard. So when I watch Fred VanVleet play, and throughout the years since Toronto, playing behind Kyle Lowry, he tends to be the voice of what Ime Udoka wants on the court, right? And you have a veteran like him who's 30 years old. He can somewhat balance the young guys like a Jaylen Green, like an Amon Thompson, right? Like a Jabari Smith. Those young guns, those talented young guns. Fred VanVleet is the head and shoulders of that, you know, that group, right? You bring in a guy like Dillon Brooks, who comes from the Memphis Grizzlies, who apparently nobody was really looking at, saying that he was, you know, the reason why Memphis didn't, you know, get as far as they need to get to. Well, I look at Memphis now, and I see a team, since he left, hasn't made it out the first round. Now, you can blame some of that. You can blame that on Ja Morant not being healthy. That's fair. And getting in trouble. That's fair. But even when Ja Morant wasn't there for a certain period of time in that 2022-2023 season, because he was in trouble, the Memphis Grizzlies still had a winning record. I think they were 19-3. And Dillon Brooks was on that team. Desmond Bain was on that team. Tyus Jones was on that team. You had, you know, Brandon Clark on that team. JJJ on that team, Triple J. So you still had other pieces, and they were still winning. Dillon Brooks, from what I saw, was the guy that made that team have some type of edge to them. Every team, every championship team, if you guys look throughout history, has at least one guy who's not all the way there. Is a little bit, you know, off the edge, a little bit crazy, right? Not in a bad way, but he's the type of guy that gives you that edge that's not going to back down. That's what Dillon Brooks is. He's going to be that guy to take on all defensive responsibilities against the top players. If you watch in history with Dillon Brooks, that's what he has done. He may be somewhat of an annoying annoying player to, you know, play against, but you want him on your team. So you brought that guy in, gave him a 4-year, $80 million deal with Houston. Ime Udoka, smartness. You got talent, you kept. You drafted Amon Thompson. You got Jabari Smith. You got Alfred Sengun, who I think is the guy they're choosing to build around in the future, who's a skilled big, being mentored by Hakeem Olajuwon. And I'm naming all this stuff just to tell you what's going on with the Houston Rockets, y'all. I know that y'all may be saying, well, damn, you're naming a lot of stuff. I'm naming this up for a reason. Just stick with me. Alfred Sengun is a player who is extremely skilled, savvy, and knows how to play the game of basketball. Watching him against us, he struggled offensively, but his presence and his input was on the game without a doubt. If you guys saw, Ivica Zubac was pretty bad both of those games, right? The youth, the skill of Alfred Sengun is going to be something that needs to be mirrored for years to come. So that's why I say they're looking to build around this young man. You got Hakeem Olajuwon, who's teaching him, who's mentoring him, the perfect guy for him. So you got the center, you got the point guard, you got the toughness, you got the youth, right? You got all that, and you got the coaching to revolve around. Now, when you look at all those different, components, I'm looking at, okay, well, damn, okay, Houston has this, and this going on. Where does that leave them going, into the future? Well, as I've told y'all before, the Western Conference is wide open. There's no clear-cut team in the West that's going to, take it all, in my personal opinion. OKC has proven to be, a regular season team, and I still think they can be beat by certain teams in the playoffs, like the Lakers, so I think it can be a matchup that can be a little bit tough for them. You got a team like the Clippers. If Kawhi Leonard's healthy, they just barely lost the OKC Thunder the other night without Kawhi. I think Kawhi will be the best player in that series, because I know playoffs is about your matchups and who you deal with, right? So OKC picked up 2 bench guys in Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso. I don't know if Hartenstein's going to come off the bench, but he's known for being a bench player, so I'm only assume. Those are bench players. So usually when you make a move and it really kind of moves you in the right direction, it usually tends to be a starter. But these 2 moves, obviously people think this has really propelled them over everybody else in the Western Conference. I don't see that right now. I see, a team like the Clippers, the Lakers. I think the Suns, they can be there as well. They've gotten better. And they got the point guard now where Kevin Durant and Devin Booker don't have to no longer carry out the playmaking. That was a huge move. And you've added some defense and youth around the Suns, where now they look a little bit more complete as a team. They're the 4th seed. They would be higher if Kevin Durant has not gotten hurt. But they were a 2nd seed before KD got hurt, right? So you got that. Those are 3 teams right there. You got the Rockets, who I'm talking to y'all about right now. They have the size to match up with OKC. They have the toughness, they have the grittiness, and they have the coaching. Now, SGA could be the best player in that series for sure, but I'm just talking about the completeness of Houston has enough to compete against a team like OKC, and they have the youth and athleticism to match them as well. So that would be a fun series to watch. It's just so many teams against OKC you can throw at them. But I'm back to my point with the Rockets. There's no top team in the Western Conference right now, so that leaves the West wide open. Houston's number 3 in the Western Conference. And when you have Ime Udoka, who set the standard for the team, saying, we are going to not use youth as an excuse to not be competitive, that goes a long way when you talk about a team like Houston. Now, the one thing that's going to probably, in my personal opinion, be a problem is that they don't have a real legit star. They have really good young players, good pieces, toughness, gritness, but they don't have a star, and that's why I think in next year's offseason they're going to go all out for somebody in the free agency to get. But they are building a great foundation in Houston, because you have all the tools, you have all the pieces completed, where you have enough to build a championship team. Houston, for y'all don't know, is a big city. Free agents would tend to want to go there. It has history. They have the coaching. So there's going to be a free agent available that Houston can probably snag either if not this upcoming year, the next year. So they're going the right direction. They're doing things the right way. And it's just going to be more and more, patience, but they're going to be in the mix. They are definitely a solid team. They've recovered from the James Harden departure as well. So me just watching them this season, I think people need to, check in with that team. Now, it's also going to depend on the development of Jaylen Green and Alfred Sengun, because from what I heard, Jaylen Green that Houston's not giving Jaylen Green like a max deal. So his development last year and then this year is going to be prevalent if they choose to put him as the cornerstone of their franchise. But right now, it's Alfred Sengun is the guy that they're looking at as being the franchise player. But I think Jaylen Green has all the talent to be that. Does he have it up here to do? That's where I think Ime Udoka comes in. Can he develop Jaylen Green to teach him how to properly play basketball? Because watching him in the last game, you could tell the IQ is not fully there. He tends to settle for a lot of jump shots and threes with his athleticism. He should not even be having to settle for nothing. But that comes with time. I think he's like 24 years old, 23, 24 years old. So that's going to come with time with Jaylen Green. But I love everything about Houston, man. I think Houston is going to be a team that's going to be a force to reckon with. They're going to be gritty. They're going to be tough. They got the coaching to prove it. And, yeah, that's my thoughts. Houston, we have a problem. NBA, we got a problem. Pull up a seat, pull up a chair, pull it out. Pays out here like swim wild.